All right. Looks like we are on time for one today. For the people who are going to be viewing this in the future, this is part 2 of 3 of a July 2002 SEPTA trip from Thorndale to West Trenton and back. I'm not quite sure how I did that. I guess I was with Bob at the time. I think we drove out to Thorndale and then took SEPTA to West Trenton and back, but not exactly sure why we chose that exact way to do things. Yesterday, we rode in from Thorndale to Center City. Today, we're going to be moving out from Center City, I think after a change of train, to West Trenton. And then in the third part, which will have to be at a later date, probably in 2 weeks, we will be returning from West Trenton back to Thorndale. So, I'm just going to get started here. Yesterday I had a little bit of a technical issue with the forced upgrade that delayed things by about 20 minutes. So if I'd had time, I probably would have tried to get this done in 2 shots. But I'm just going to do 3. Unfortunately, have a little bit of a gap. I don't like having like 2 weeks between, when things happen, but I can't really do much else. So I'm pretty sure we did change trains because I didn't really have. It looked like it took me a little bit of time to get situated and start getting pictures out the front again, so the crew could take tickets and I could sort of hide before getting up there and getting my photos. So we're starting at the 16th Street Junction, which by this, which this point was controlled from Wayne Tower, which we'll get to in a little bit. But again, here's just some pictures of 16th Street. This is the old junction between the 4-track Reading suburban trunk line up to Wayne Junction and what was arguably the Reading passenger main line out to Norristown and then Reading and points beyond. So today, this is just the junction with the Norristown branch. SEPTA's sort of crummy, what used to be the slowest commuter line in North America. But this is overbuilt because it was the junction between the Philly trunk and the Reading passenger main line. Um, 16th Street has not changed since I first started seeing it here in 2002. It still mainly consists of 2 double slip ladders, one with 3 double slips and one with 1, and all consisting of pneumatic point. With everything is with pneumatic point machines. I'm not sure what I want to do here. I'd like to get more in of the field, but going too wide sort of cuts it. But let me just see what I can do. Yeah. Anywho, this is taken from underneath. This bridge above is the northeast quarter, so this is where the 4-track SEPTA trunk passes under Amtrak's NEC. If we were in World War II, this would be known as a juicy target. Sorry, I'm just setting up here. Try to get some pictures of the whole double slip field here, but wasn't able to get. I have other pictures later on that that are pretty good. while the trip inbound from Thorndale was railroad east-west. Once on SEPTA, it changes to north-south. So SEPTA is pretty much an entirely north-south system. In fact, I don't think there are any of its lines that are signaled that have railroad direction east-west. Westchester branch is north-south. Yeah, I can't think of anything that's east-west. Amtrak stuff is east-west on the Harrisburg line and the NEC, but for good or for whatever reason, SEPTA has gone with a north-south alignment, probably from the Reading. Now, 16th Street was remote from Wayne Junction. They had these really nice GRS, General Railway Signal, NX machines controlling the whole thing. And when I get to Wayne Tower, I'll explain about Wayne Tower as well. But in a lot of instances, the local switches and signals remained numbered as to their original tower configuration. So 16th Street had the L and R configuration, the L and R signal labeling from its probably had a USNS Model 14 there. So this would be the 21 switch and the 25. So the near one would be here in the picture. 21, I guess S. I don't know. I don't know usually how those are numbered. Now we're at Huntington Ave. Is it Huntington Ave? No, just Huntington. Let's see what it is on the thing. This is the 1976 track diagrams. So this does predate Railworks, but a lot of the stuff was maintained. It was part of Wayne. Oh, it would have been new. So, I actually don't have the stuff for Huntington, the track, the numbers and such. I also sort of forget if it's I think it's how to spell that. Gonna have to figure that one out. Oh, it's Hunt. It's just Hunt interlocking. So SEPTA Hunt was built was part of Railworks. If you see it, that's why its signaling looks a little ad hoc. Railworks was the whole the mid 1980s rebuild of the Reading terminal of the viaduct because due to issues with it collapsing. Just need to find an available name. All right, that's actually what I called it, and that's what it should be. So perfect. I can use the old name. So it's just a facing point ladder heading into the Roberts Yard. Roberts Yard again was it's sort of like the Overbrook shops or Powlerton Yard, but it just lets trains run through Center City and then pull off, as opposed to having to. They used to do a lot of the MU Yard used to be a single-ended affair at near North Philadelphia, but that didn't. It was sort of small and didn't work very well. Here we have some pictures of a train waiting on the outlet track at Roberts Yard. This is SEPTA 288. Again, I discarded a surprising number of these older photos. And additional trains at Roberts Hall. These are hanging out outside the HVAC shop. That's one of the things that. So the Wayne Junction has these Wayne Electric shops where they still, those are still used for a variety of maintenance operations. But Roberts Yard has its specialty is an HVAC repair shop. HVAC and traction power, I guess. And those are notable because they have a lot of online the capacity for hot testing. So you can put up a pantograph onto an internal 12 kV power supply, so you can test the AC and stuff. So this is number 413 and 284. Unfortunately, SEPTA sort of screwed up its numbering scheme. Back in the day, it had a pretty consistent scheme from starting at 100 and going up to 300 and something of former Reading and PRR units. Then someone had this bright idea of renumbering things when they had the into the 400s, when they had the PCBs taken out of the transformers. And the problem was that they gave up halfway through and they started numbering things back into empty numbers that had already been moved. So it's became very difficult to determine what were former PRR and what were former Reading units. You used to be able to look at the pilot because the Reading units had cow catchers, but then they removed all the cow catchers around 2005 or so, or 2005, 2006. So now there's, unless you have a chart, which used to exist on Wikipedia till someone took it down, it's rather difficult to sort of, you can't really remember off the top of your head which were which. So now we're on Wayne Junction. This is original Wayne Junction layout. See it here at the top. So here we have the 53 switch and then the 4951 double slip. We'll see what I called this back in the day. And Wayne Tower is all the way in the back, but we'll get to that in a second. So here we have the 4951 double slip. I'm just going to stick with using the original Reading notation. It's what they were using up through at least Railworks, and should have been. I don't think they would have renumbered the GRS machines. So at this point in time, these should be using the original numbering. If remember, double slips always have two lever numbers. It's just like if you collapse two normal turnouts into one. Here we have Wayne. I'd love to be able to capture that. That works. So here we have the I'm not sure what that is. Oh, that's just the 47 switch, because the fourth track sort of takes an odd route. The signal is the 32L, 40R, and looks like there was additional stuff. So I'm just call it 32L. It's complicated stuff. So I actually looked this up ahead of time. This is still there, the Reading blue liner. It's a little less blue. It's gotten a little more fade over the years, but the number is 9135. For anyone who cares, the Reading silver liners were in the 9000 series, I'm pretty sure, and it shows where they're single-ended silver liner 4s. So the silver liner 2s were in the 90s. So Reading put all of its MUs up in the 9000 series, or they originally 800, number 800 or so, and then when they blue linered them, they moved them up into the 9000 series along with the silver liners. That took place in the 60s when the air conditioning was installed. I have a better shot of that coming back. So here we start seeing Wayne Tower. By this point in time, it was still active, but the interesting part on Wayne is it was a double tower. It long had the original interlocking machine removed, and it had been replaced by two General Railway Signal NX consoles, big panels. But they weren't big. They were both in the corner of a room. I have their pictures you can get of them. Maybe I can spend a second to try to find it. I remember where the photos were. I could probably find them if I needed to. 2002 to 2007. This should have them. Here it is. Wayne Junction and Tower. Here they go. So as you can see, they are these fairly beefy GRS CTC consoles with expansive territory. So one of them was the Wayne, in Wayne, the physical Wayne Tower was Wayne Tower and Wind Tower. Wind, each of them had different territories. And they were also hot desks, so it wasn't just one guy at each. You'd have like 3 or 4 guys. There's a wider picture. And if you see the picture, the place where these desks are very small. It's sort of one corner of if the Wayne Junction Tower, which you see here, is sort of long and narrow, both of those consoles are at one end of it. And sometimes in the peak, there would usually be multiple operators at each console. So you'd almost have guys sort of sitting in their laps, each other's laps there. Meadowlands Maintenance, the Meadowlands Control Center at NJT is the same problem. Where single dispatcher desks will have multiple people on them. So if you're, I'll put the link in the into the chat if anyone cares. That's going to be it for part 1 of 4 or 3.5. There's a lot of neat stuff that's not there anymore in this set. And yeah, it's one of those unfortunate things that SEPTA did a lot of its rip and tear before I was in a really good position to get out and document it. I got some, but I didn't. It was pre like 2008. So then here we just have the Wayne Tower. It's still there. I'm sure that was a USNS plant. And yeah, it was always neat knowing that there's like that was one of the things when I first got I got a scanner before I got a digital camera, and from where I was in South Jersey, I couldn't hear the trains, but I could hear SEPTA Wayne and SEPTA Wind doing their thing. And now with all the automated dispatching they have, you don't hear anything. But when they had operators up there, they were pretty chatty. But it's neat. I don't really know of any other double towers like that. It's kind of a unique thing. I'm sure there's got to be some somewhere. Here we have Wayne Electric Shops with the notorious SEPTA 50, 51 series. It looks like 287, some Silverliner 2s, something I can't identify, and either 50 or 51. I have it in a different shot. There it is. 52. So what is that? I'm going to say 287. It's nice. You got a nice the curve there lets you get some good pictures of what's in the yard at any one time. Then we have 50 and 52. One of these got rebuilt beyond recognition. I think one of them is still there with them. Both of these or some of them had their original EMD power plant. Some of them had been, I think 50. Yeah, BL15. 50 got remanufactured. It was originally an MLW, and it got remanufactured with some sort of Caterpillar engine. And then the Caterpillar engine, of course, couldn't hack it, and they got EPA funds to rebuild it into something that looked completely different with like a Tier 4 or whatever super low emissions engine, and that just didn't work at all. So that just goes to show like what you get when you try to put road use or alternative use engines into locomotives. You're not going to get that 20 plus year life expectancy on them. It's going to chop off that telephone pole right there. But this is a nice picture with both 52 and 50. 50 and 51 were constantly rescuing dead whenever a push-pull set would break down. They would always have to sent out to get them. I saw them towing those on 2 non-consecutive occasions. Now, here's something that you don't see anymore. And you don't even see the remnants of it. This is, I just want to get the right one. Because it can be, it's one of 2 things. And I just want to make sure I'm labeling it the right way. And this is another thing that I just, again, I complain about this every time. That was... So there's 2 abandoned stations between Wayne Junction and Fern Rock. One of them was Logan, which is directly adjacent to the Broad Street Line station. So that's why it got closed. SEPTA doesn't need to compete with itself. I should probably put a polygon in for that. In fact, that was Logan. I thought there was Logan and Tabor, but that is clearly Logan. Yeah, it's not a lot. You think Tabor was? Oh, sorry, Tabor was around the curve. Yep, so Tabor got closed because they built Fern Rock just a bit to the north, and Logan was closed because it was effectively duplicating the service. Now here. Station was closed in the 90s, demolished in the mid-2000s. Passenger tracks were subsequently realigned. So here, the passenger tracks are straight through, and the CSX Trenton Line, or Conrail Trenton Line, which used to be the low-grade line, is that bypassed Wayne Junction, is coming up here on the lower half. Cutting back to the photo, you can see the original alignment because there was island platforms. And of course, the Wikimedia diagram doesn't quite have where the platforms were. It sort of put them in the wrong place. Can't zoom in anymore there, but yeah, that's one of those many things. There's gonna be a ton of stuff that's not there anymore. So let me just quick crop this. So I said sort of a shame, but it's just one of those things that's going to slow down service, and with the Broad Street line there, you really don't need it. And here we go to the old Newtown Junction. This is the junction between the SEPTA main line, Reading, Bethlehem branch, maybe, and the New York Short line, which cut the corner between here and Neshaminy Junction, or Neshaminy Falls. So freight trains wouldn't have to take the meandering route. It saves a couple miles. And cuts down on the curve, so trains wouldn't have to go and take the, freight trains wouldn't have to go through Jenkintown. Jenkintown was seen as a major suburban station. It was the metro park for the Reading. So that's why the passenger trains continued to use the New York branch, but the freight trains would take the New York Short Line. This wasn't even the New York Short Line wasn't even electrified until the late 60s, or the 60s, when they did the Fox Chase electrification out to Fox Chase. At this point, this is SEPTA has joint authority with Conrail, or CSX in this case, for the Trenton Line. And that it's like a Conrail line, but SEPTA dispatches it and signals it. So this is the point where Conrail is now at this signal right here at the top. Conrail trains are under SEPTA jurisdiction. SEPTA used both the tracks and had pretty strict wait periods that they would not generally let freights through on that during the peak periods. In 2008, SEPTA separated itself at this point, and then they did the same thing they were going to do up with CSX on the West Trenton Line, in that they went from having a double track line to CP Cheltenham Junction, to switching to a single track line for Conrail and a single track line for SEPTA. So, SEPTA doesn't really want to run trains, so they don't really care about hamstringing their capacity. So anyway, here we have the old northbound signals. I'm going to pull up the interlocking here. It's Newtown Junction. This is a 1976 view. So, oops, nope, there it goes. No, damn. There it goes. In the 60s, it was 4 tracks. The low grade freight line was ABS 251. The other tracks were 261. Here in this interest, but it was the end of 261 northbound. After this, it went 251 heading out to beyond. SEPTA, when they did the Railworks project, they extended the Rule 261 up to, I'm pretty sure they extended it up to Fern Rock, but I could be wrong. Anyway, they sort of kit bashed. Say these are exit automatics. Here's the old 16R, and this is the 12R. And then you can see where there was a track there, and they sort of combined the 11 and 13 switches into this 11-13 sort of snake switch. So here we have a clear on the 16R, but I love this little kit bashed, squashed together triple searchlight. It reminds me of Caltrain has something like that, approaching 4th Street Terminal, where they have these little mini searchlight stacks. Anyway, it's Newtown Junction, by the way, because the now somewhat abandoned line to Newtown was actually meant as the start of a route to New York City. Some sort of airline thing that never really got off the ground. Again, here we have the 11 switch and the end of the 15 switch, and the tower, which is still there today. All this is a little bit backlit, but I can sort of bring this back. These are really important photos for me to really be reprocessing here. They're currently not available, and they have a lot of historic stuff that is just not there today. I did not get a good picture of the double slip the ladder there. So like a lot, the Reading, more than any railroad in the United States, was a fan of British style flat junctions with movable point diamonds. I'm sure other railroads did it. Like, you can go all over the place. But the Reading did them to a huge degree. So here you have your typical, like, hey, here's some crossovers. And hey, more crossovers. If this was PRR, they would have had crossover, a bunch of crossovers. But the Reading put in these right there, these two additional like movable point frog ladders that sort of skip that second track. That's always a thing they like in the UK, because they're so wed to that ABS Rule 251 that whenever they're having crossovers between like parallel, they don't let you have that they don't let you give you the option to go reverse. So they're just they don't, instead of having four turnover, a whole bunch of turnouts and then the lines diverge, you get this thing with the movable point frogs. They're not double slips, they're just movable point frogs, so you can almost have like a straight routing off that junction onto the passenger tracks. Reading did that all over the place, and it survived pretty late. You said, even as you can see here into SEPTA, the only one they have left is Carmel, but Jenkintown used to have it too. And I just don't usually see that in. That's not typical in North American practice. I'm gonna make this a little wider. And here we have, of course, the New York Short Line / Fox Chase branch electrified. The one interesting thing, let me just go back to this. So yeah, at this point, Conrail or CSX could use both tracks. They could. The low grade line was a single track, but they could swap over to on that 5th, 11, 13, and then swing back out on the opposite New York Short Line track, or the other direction, of course. Today it's all just single track for both. So that's the 20L and 14L on the Short Line signal bridge. Ooh. Not sure what I can really do with this. This is just backlit heck. Yeah. I must have had access to both sides of the train back then. SEPTA's much more busier than it used to be. Here we have Jenkintown. Another interesting thing to note at Jenkintown is that that it's very well built up, covered platforms, etc. It was always two tracks as far as I can tell. Let's swing up to where we can hit. I believe up the Reading named it Jenkin. Although I might be, let's check out, let me just check Tabor Junction real quick. At this point it was, here we have 3 tracks to the south. I'm not quite sure what's up there. Now it's a SEPTA main line. Back then it was Bethlehem branch, and then the other one is New York branch. But the interesting thing to see here is that despite, if you had to pick which is the diverging move, you would look at this and say Bethlehem branch. The diverging move is actually set to the New York branch, or sorry, if you had to say, well, it's diverging, you'd say New York branch. Because the Bethlehem looks slightly straighter. In actuality, the New York branch had the clear signal. So that means, remember, there's no cabs now. Back in 2002, as soon as you passed into Newtown Junction or left Wayne, you're out of cab signal territory. Trains just, the engineer was responsible for running them. So coming up, approaching Jenkintown, you had this. It was like a 30-mile-an-hour curve, but you had clear signals, so you didn't have to do the whole approach. Of course, there was no speed control anyway. You could come up to this however you wanted, make your station stop, and then take off again. So anyway, I'm just pointing that out. We have Jenkin Tower there, and a clear signal on the 24L, and the 27 switch there as well. Closer picture of Jenkin, the 27 switch, the dwarf, and then the diamond. Your flat junction with a movable point diamond. Today, this has been reconfigured so that one track comes in. I don't even know how they do it, but in fact, we could go take a look. But they've replaced it with pure turnouts. So movable point diamonds are an unwanted maintenance item. You don't tend to see them very often. Yeah, you can see how far out of the way this goes from the New York Short Line, for any of those who wanted to know. There's your New York Short Line. It just cuts right to New York, and the passenger route makes a turn, heads up here. So there's the new Jenkin interlocking. Yeah, I'm not sure how they got that all to fit. Oh, they moved the 27 switch up a bit. So yeah, they put in all turnouts. Carmel is the only one that has the movable point diamond. Still there. I think this was like something like KI Tower or something like that. The 27 switch, the 2L signal. This is probably a pretty busy tower back in the day. The 17 switch. And then we have there's the close up of the 17 switch, and then the movable point diamond. This was an electric plant. It looks. I think that this. Let me go back and look at that real quick. Oh yeah, okay. It's M3, so it's an electric. Electric. They were subsequently replaced. But yeah, these all look like non-dual control M3s, and that's an old style one. That's probably original right there because it's got the it doesn't have the sheet metal box. It's the cast motor housing. Oops. The 24RA signal and the 19 movable point diamond. Yeah, I should have just, it's one of those things that if I had known, I would have gone out there. Here we just have the curve leaving Jenkintown on the New York Short Line. New York Short Line is pretty much the fastest route on the SEPTA Reading end of things. I think they should have some 70 mile an hour on the Lansdale line, but I'm just not. It doesn't feel like it. On the New York branch, in theory, you can really get up to 70, especially on an express. I'm just gonna make that part of the Jenkin set. And here we have number 426. Somewhere near, I think, Beth Ayres. This is near the old Beth Ayres. Oh, here we go. This is interesting. This is 2002, and SEPTA has just completed the first stage of their Rule 562 conversion on the New York branch, or the West Trenton Line, between Jenkintown and the Neshaminy Falls. Here, let me undo that resizing. Why I know is because you have turned ABS signal heads. These are on the line. They stayed on the line for a while, but even in 2002, SEPTA had started its evil plan to eliminate ABS. And all of this was now cabbed. So that's the 18.3, milepost 18.3 track 2 signal. Pretty neat. A little bit of catastrophic black backlighting here, but whoops, don't need to do that again. One second, I just gotta find how I do my West Trenton Line signals. Oh, I just say it in the Neshaminy line. So these were taken on the 2012 SEPTA Silverliner trip, and as you can still see, they had some of the ABS signals up on the old signal bridges turned, and not yet removed. I got them somewhere. I got the numbers somewhere. I'm not sure how I got them, but. So this is the 184. Oh, that would have been where I was. So this just would have had the there we go. Just want to get this right. Yeah, this is kind of a SEPTA-centric thing. So SEPTA 426 plus Neshaminy line. That's the 183 signal turned. It's gonna be hard to find that. It's not good for discovery, but it's kind of what the content demands. So there we go. It's set 2. Told you this was going to be a doozy. There's a lot of neat stuff in here. I don't mind it. I mean, the ubiquity. It's less cab signaling and more the ABS 251. You can have ABS 251 in cab. The West Chestnut Hill West line had it. But the whole just going from the original Reading configuration with single, there's just not a lot of single direction ABS anymore, and SEPTA was a sort of an outlier in the it was one of a surviving example of really good ABS operation. Like the whole, except for the single track lines out to West Trenton, out to Lansdale, and the trunk from there was all ABS 251. So you had to have temporary block stations. You had all the cool stuff would happen. And now not only is it 261, it's like it's 562 with just no signals at all, and even low information home signals. It's the absolute worst. There's nothing to do out there. I mean, it's one tick above Metro North. In fact, I would even say that it's worse than the Long Island Railroad's reduced aspect signals, because they can show a whole bunch of things. And they got like lunar white and flashing and all sorts of fun. So this is, now I can cut to my I can cut to my better diagram here from 1997, the Conrail. This is SEPTA Neshaminy. I would sometimes call it Nesh. I should see if, yeah, I should be calling it Neshaminy. Because that's what it is. I used to call it Nesh, but that was sort of a misconception, and I might want to rename some of that stuff, but I'll stick with Neshaminy now. Anyway, now it's a full crossover. In then it was a trailing a single trailing point. The other neat thing about Nesh, I'll pull up the Reading era. It's right. It's one down from Newtown Junction. Come on, there it is. Maybe not. Neshaminy. Okay. Again, you had that same thing you had at CP Newtown Junction, with movable point diamonds, all sorts. I mean, again, Pennsylvania Railroad would have just had. It just would have had a straight. What would it have done? The 26 switch would have been there. It's separate. Yeah, it just would have been flat turnouts, but the Reading put through in that movable point diamond, and there's no way to go from track 1 south to track 2 south here. You just can't do it. It's, you don't have that option, because that's not a diamond. In fact, and so what happened was, when everything got split up in the early 90s, there's occasional videos you can see of SEPTA and of Philly area operations in the 80s, and there's tons of, it's all still conjoined. Conrails running through Amtrak towers, Conrails running through SEPTA interlockings. Up through the 80s, this was still how it looked, with the New York Short Line and the 3-track sort of trunk line to Trenton. And then at some point, let me pull up the other I'm not sure if this diagram tells me what the dates are. At some point, they're like, they did the first septaration was the septaration between Wood and Neshaminy, where SEPTA got its 2 tracks, because it was a 3-track right-of-way. You can see, here's your 3-track right-of-way. SEPTA got its 2 tracks all to itself. Conrail got 1 track all to itself. And here at Neshaminy, what used to have 3 tracks splitting to 2-track lines, SEPTA kept that vestigial. Still, look, it even has the same number, that 22 switch. That's that's why that's what it was on the board on the old wind machine, and that's what it is. See remote wind, and that's what it was 20, however many years later. Conrail separated out this thing into a CP Nesh, and it just sort of split it right sort of down the middle. Just sort of interesting how they did that. But anyway, let me just get the numbers on those signals. That's going to be, so in the Reading zone, yeah, so see, these use GRS pistol grip frame numbers, where every head has its own number. Even though it was controlled from the same NX plant, SEPTA or the Reading just sort of kept the same. I guess they were saving on documentation or something. So here we have the lever 10 dwarf and the 11, 12, 13 other signal. But I'm not going to call them out by name. We'll see what's up. And then we have your R22 switch at Neshaminy. It's still neat that the platform is still the way it is at Neshaminy, where you have two platforms, but the only way to access one is to walk across the tracks. So that's sort of cool. You got a duck board, you got a platform, a track duck board with going through a crossover. Thank God I took all these crazy switch and signal photos back in 2002. If I had just done train stuff, which is what I often did with my film camera, I wouldn't have had all these. I don't know if these could give cab speed at the time. I don't think they could. I'm pretty sure that when SEPTA started this thing, all you would get was yeah, maybe that did do, no, that didn't do cab speed. I think you just got clear into it and you go by cabs. Then they switched it. That's going to be your 42 switch. Oh, sorry, signal. And we are back on the ABS 251 territory. From that 2012 thing, as you'd seen, the signal between Jenkintown and Neshaminy they had by 2012 they had been completely removed, but the ones between Neshaminy and Wood had just been turned. I don't know the exact date of when those were taken out of service, but in 2002 the ABS signals were still going. In fact, these photos are why I knew what the signal numbers were after they'd been turned, because the plates had been taken down. So this is the milepost 224. The first two is milepost, so it's milepost 22, 0.4, and then track 2, so 2242. Oops. One second. Here we have the so these signals here are still there. There are for the Conrail. So here we have three. You have sort of three signals. The 2392 is for the SEPTA Track 2 Neshaminy line. Then you have 21N for the Trenton line. And then you have the reverse, which would be like 21S or 22S. I think 21S, yeah. 21N and 21S are still there. Now, they've been renumbered, but they're still there and they're still Conrail style. And I went out there last Thanksgiving and I got pictures of them. The whole kit and caboodle. This 239-2, that's been removed. I'm going to try to brighten this as best I can, but can't really do much there. Maybe, I'm not sure. I'm trying to think I should crop it a little more. Yeah, because there's nothing else in the rest of that picture. Straighten it a hair. There we go. Two 239 clear plus there's a long file descriptor for you, but you got to do what you got to do sometimes. I think when I noticed that those first turn signals, I was like, ooh, this isn't good. I gotta get on this one. Here we are at Fairless. I think this is Fairless Junction, and we have a CSX local freight. Yeah, CP Fairless Junction, which ultimately leads to the Fairless branch, which I don't know what is even used for anymore since the steel mill's gone. This looks like a standard SD40 8551. I do have the CSX roster up. The 8000 series is SD40s, yeah. Or not. 855. That's an SD50. There you go. Sort of hard to tell that right now. Whatever he's doing. Eight 551. Now we're at CP Wood. CP Wood is sort of again is largely intact, even with all the resignaling. The dwarf signals are there. I think they might have put up a new high one, but the signals still they still display because of the movements between SEPTA through the interlocking to get from for Trenton Line movements going to that Norristown connector. You'll still get like regular real signal indications. I don't know what I called this. This is sort of a junky photo of wood. I have decent pictures of CP Wood. I got out there when they were doing that last resignaling. I did get my butt out there. CP Wood, there's your 50R, 48R, 46R. Might as well just go with that. Oh, wait a second. I got some letterboxing going on. I want to dump. And note all the S boards for a speed restriction. Oops. Good enough. And here we have 43 switch, 45 switch, 47 switch. Now at this point, it's indicated this is controlled from wind. Trent Tower was closed at this time, but it was a thing up through the 90s. In theory, you would have thought that Trent, that had a CTC style machine in there, would have controlled this, but apparently it didn't. I don't know what else was on the machine. The fact that, again, this is US and S numbering, so this probably was an original US and S tower. Reading was kind of equal, what do you call it, was kind of equal opportunities for signal contracts. They didn't seem to just pick one. I bet that those signals are flashing, but I can't prove it. They would almost have to be. These signals at Yardley, again, I did get pictures of them. They were very well known. Between Wood and Trent, I think that they were that SEPTA did use mile-long blocks, so you had 4-block signaling. And these milepost 30 automatics would display advanced approach for a stop at Trent, which was frequently the case. The neat part was that they would flash in unison. They were using the same. They were fed off the same flashing flasher relay. So you had a standing flasher relay, and then a relay downstream of that would cut it into the aspect, as opposed to the other way around. So both of these would flash in unison. It was pretty cool. I have a really crappy 480p video of them flashing. This is where I have to go back and in fact, I don't need to go to my folders. I can pull up I can go back to my 2015 trek out there to get pictures before the septuration happened. That's interesting. I wasn't able to get them together because there's a track fence. CR Trenton Line. There we go. And they're also the other thing about these, although I did get out to document them in 2015, they're approach-lit, so you don't really get a lot of good pictures on them. So it's 31S plus 1N 2X. It's worth noting that this was likely a 4-track right-of-way, but I think it here, whatever was here, is where it necked down way back in the day before the whole Reading CTC project, that there was something here to neck it down into 2 tracks for the bridge that we will then soon see. And here we have the rounding the curve to the Delaware River bridge. Having a tough time. These are pretty good photos for the time. I don't think I got a cab ride. Oh god, I use terrible naming for all this. No wonder I can never find it. Here we are on the Delaware River Bridge, which has clearly been 2 tracks and has always been 2 tracks. I'm not sure. So I have been to West Trenton on my SEPTA trips that I do every December. The thing is that I'm not sure I will ever do it again, because West Trenton used to be Zone 5 in the old system. It used to be, Zone 6 was the special penalty zone for going to Trenton to connect to go to New York, where SEPTA charged, and the day passes wouldn't work there. But West Trenton, that was okay because no one used it. But I think that SEPTA was noticing a lot more people were starting to go to West Trenton. So they made it the New Jersey zone where you pay a surcharge, and of course the passes don't go there. If the passes don't go there, you go from having an $11 day pass to do everything to an $11 day pass plus a $10 ticket to go out to New Jersey, just to go to West Trenton. And would be worse if we did a round trip too. So I'm not sure I'm going to be going back to West Trenton. The first way we did it, we took the river to avoid the charge to Trenton. We took the river line to Trenton and then took a bus and then walked. I loathe having to take a bus, but we were able to do it in a way that wasn't completely objectionable. Of course, there was no actual bus that would take you from Trenton to West Trenton. So that was annoying. Had to walk about a mile. Here we have the 31 signals. Oops. The SEPTA side's all cab signal now, and CSX drastically reduced capacity on the other side. It used to be you'd have signals every mile. Now you have, I think there's 2. I don't know where they are. There used to be they reduced 3 or 4 blocks down to 2. I'm not sure where the other one is. I think one of them is at Yardley, and then the other one is before this. So there's 2 intermediates between CP Wood and what used to be Trent, but Trent doesn't connect. It's this new CP Summit. I didn't even look. Probably should have found a way to get out to those. So there we go. That's our next set. It's got one more. It's going to be a part set, so we'll get through this pretty quick. Probably only 5 or 6 pictures. I'm going to find a cut point. Let's see. Probably just cut it at 60. Yeah. So let's do 6 more photos. Let's see what we got here. The UK, like I said, it was something easy to do back in the day. But the UK just doesn't do reverse direction running. So the movable point diamonds are just you don't need to have something. You don't need to have that path. If I'm going towards a junction, I don't need to take the wrong direction from the junction, or if I'm approaching, basically it cuts out needing the ability to take to switch over to a wrong direction track, just because the UK just doesn't do, when the UK has to do a Form D type of thing, reverse direction outside signaling control, they literally have to put a pilot min with a token. It's absolutely ridiculous. What the heck? Damn it. I have that stupid little magnifying thing on there. I don't know how to turn it off. Yeah, there it is. Okay, we got 6 more, and I'll cut up. Yeah, sorry for the long haul here, but there's a lot of stuff going on. Here we are back to. So I'm going to pull up Trent real quick. In 1997, it was labeled as still being an active tower because it hadn't changed the card, but it had closed in 1994. If we go to the Reading diagram, I can zip down to Trent. It pretty much type L interlocking machine. I don't know what that is. I mean, it's a unit lever. 10 levers, spares, blah blah blah. It's a 60 lever machine, of which it doesn't seem to be using a lot of them. I think it did control. It probably controlled the interlocking. Known as wing, but I'm not sure. There's just a little bit more to it. I gotta find that wing. Maybe wing still exists. One sec. Wayne Wall. There it is. CTC control panel. Huh. Wings and interlocking without appliances. It's fascinating. Trent CN. I'm not sure. I would assume that it controlled wing, but I don't know. Anywho, let me get back to Trent. I'm going to be using the modern designations because it had been resignaled by this point. But anyway, just here's the West Trenton station. I'm not going to really get too a lot into Trent itself. You know what I can do? I can just try brightening this and try a color adjust. I always forget that I have color balance to warm stuff up. It just makes it look sickly. And here's something you can't see anymore. Trains on track 2 at West Trenton. It is now a single track only. Anyway, I love the fact that you can tell that this used to be a 4-track station, and at some point they axed 2 of the tracks and they had to extend the platforms out. Your infrastructure downsizing at work. Again, here we have the end of the platform. Actually, I have pictures. A picture in a SEPTA book of a signal that used to be right there. I guess arguably when they probably when they did they did some resignaling in the 60s. So the 4 tracks went away very early on. Also note the delay and block sign located immediately in front of the signal that the delay and block sign warns the drivers to be on the lookout for. If you don't remember, in the Silver Spring crash in the mid-90s, on non-cab signal territory, trains making a station stop had to maintain 40 miles an hour until the next, inside a distant signal, had to maintain 40 miles an hour until the home signal became visible. This was crews had to be reminded of this by placing a delay and block sign at the end of the platform before any platform before the home signal. I know multiple locations where there was a delay and block signal immediately before the actual home signal. In fact, there's in Salem, the delay and block signal is attached to the home signal. Sorry, the delay and block warning sign is attached to the home signal that you can plainly see. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's the 4N. And this looks like our SEPTA train for this trip, number 180. Well, it would have been the front. It would have been something different, but oops. So whenever you went out to West Trenton, the train would pull into the yard. Then the crew would walk over and go to the bathroom and take a break in the tower. And then the train would pull back across that single crossover and usually wait for some appropriate time to let people board. When we did the SEPTA Silverliner trips, there's a lot of lulls on the Trenton line for traffic. There's just periods where nothing happens. So the SEPTA trains will sometimes just hang out on the main if there's nothing scheduled to go through. Almost done. I have video, so it's interesting. Today, NORAC and I think NS have a dwarf approach aspect indicate, but previously they did not. There was no way to display straight approach on a dwarf signal under Conrail/NORAC signal rules. This little three-headed dwarf, which you think is like you look at it, it's like, well, what's that good for? It's on a main line. Like, what's that going to do? Is that what, slow speed? How are they going to work that? Well, you're not thinking. So not only can a dwarf like that display medium clear for a crossover or medium approach for a crossover, they would actually also have it display yellow over green for approach medium to CP wing, and for approach to CP wing, it'll just display medium approach. It's like, you don't have to be diverging. It's just a speed signal. So you can display a medium approach for a straight route. Why not? It's called thinking outside of the box. It's the one switch northbound. Last one for the day. Yeah, I'm glad I didn't try to do too much of this stuff. So I'm hoping you guys all enjoyed this, because I will be back in 2 weeks for the stunning conclusion of taking SEPTA from Thorndale to West Trenton and back. This is a law office, I think. It's not a restaurant. I'm pretty sure it's a law office or other professional services office. In unrelated news, if anyone ever used to hang out at West Trenton for rail fanning, Freddy's restaurant across the street has closed permanently. In theory, it's COVID related, but they were actually planning this. Oh no, wait, sorry, they closed back in 2019. It was not COVID related. The property in the parking lot, they just got an offer they could not refuse. The property was pretty big. I said West Trenton was always sort of a dump compared to Trenton and all the other the business that you get people driving in there. Let's see if I can pull out there real quick. Don't want to crash this stuff. So West Trenton is kind of in the sticks. It's like farm fields, and the New Jersey School for the Deaf is out there. So there's the West Trenton station. Again, it is bordering farm. You're into farmland and an airport. But hey, transit-oriented development's a thing. So Freddy's restaurant was there. It's like a glorified diner right across from Trent Tower. He had that giant parcel, and that field was empty too. So I don't know who owned that field. Maybe he did. In fact, there was some garage. So he probably owns this whole giant assembly. This whole chunk's going to get turned into, like housing, but there's going to be food options. So, and I think he's going to come back and do something, and he's going to be in one of those food options. So there you go. Just FYI for anyone who like to hang out at Freddy's, he picked the exact right time. He sold the restaurant to developers like 6 months before COVID. It's called wow, playing it right. Anywho, thank you for all watching. Sorry for the long period of time. Let me see if there are any more questions. Yep, sorry it's going to take 2 weeks to get back, but there's going to be a whole bunch of neat stuff. Dump some of these pictures, dump some of that stuff. If you want a preview, we got more stuff at Trent Tower. We got Silverliner 2s, all sorts of Silverliner 2s. We've got more Wayne Tower. We've got more 16th Street. We've got 30th Street, Main Line, Speary Rail Service. So definitely join us back in 2 weeks. Got a lot of fun stuff. This is a set of photos I've been looking forward to doing. All right. Any questions? Thank you for all watching. I'm glad I got a go. It's nice to have a pretty good crowd here today. So I'm going to sign off, and you can always throw stuff in the chat. By the way, thanks to Multimodal Ways for these interlocking diagrams, both these 1998 or 97 Philly ones and the 1976 Reading Division ones. Super great reference material.